Hey guys, and welcome to CPLFever. It's your host, Jack and Angie Murray here. And today, tomorrow, the CPL season will kick off. The start of the CPL season, yeah. It's just there, just around the corner. The dawn of the third season of the CPL is just upon us. So what we thought would be fun was to go like a power ranking, like who's gonna come in 8th, who's gonna come in 7th, and who's gonna come in 6th. So we're excited to do this, but it will be hard since we actually haven't seen any of the teams play. It'd be much easier like once it went back to the home markets and we've actually seen them play a little bit.
Right.
But
because there is again quite a lot of turnover on a lot of rosters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, only a couple didn't have a lot of turnover.
So where do we start?
So let's start in number 8. So number 8, I've thought a lot about this, and for this one, I'm not so sure because I feel like that they could surprise me, but I'm just gonna go with this. I think in number 8 is actually going to be, unfortunately, York United, because I love York United. Don't get me wrong, I love all the players. I've done a lot of, I've interviewed quite a few of them. I love so many of the people that work within York United. But for me, they just did so much turnover. They lost Manny Aparicio, they lost Joe DiChiara, and in that middle of the park, I just don't know if they're going to be able to have enough power to keep the ball and turn it into attack. And something that we saw in the Island games was they were just so defensive and they didn't have enough players going forward, unfortunately, like enough attacking flair. I thought that would have been fixed with players like William Wallace coming in, but unfortunately, due to like visa issues and stuff like that, they weren't able to come in. So their contracts have been terminated, and I don't think that York United will have been able to hit as high as they should have.
Right, that's a good point. They've actually made some additions on defense with Sator and Ensa, who is a young player, and he could really be good. But again, that's pulling in people that are on the defensive side.
Yeah.
And of course, they brought in some people to fix the offensive side, which was a major problem. But if you don't have that link up, that could be a big problem because, apart from Petrasso and then a couple young players like Ferrari and Halley, who do they have to move the ball forward?
Yeah.
And really, I would argue that Ferrari and Halley are almost more like wingers.
Yeah, that's what I would say too.
So, if Petrasso gets injured, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Like a good point, because they just don't have. And what I was going to say is that they also have like a really young team with not enough experience. Like Zator's not that old, but he's like one of the most experienced players on that team. And as you can see, who they gave away Aparicio, probably all of them probably weren't by choice.
Like the people in the middle of the park that they lost are Manella, Aparicio, and DiChiara. That's massive for middle of the park losses.
Yeah, but also it's Murofushi and Porter, so everybody in the middle of the park was like switched around.
Yeah.
So
those three in particular, Manella, Aparicio, and DiChiara, they could control a game. Who they have that can be that base in the middle of the park besides Petrasso.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone on the roster.
Yeah, so that's why I'm putting York United in 8th place.
Okay. Who do we get next?
On number 7, this was tough for me because there are 2 teams that I was thinking about. I think
let me guess, that would be Athletic and Edmonton.
Yeah, it is actually the first 2 teams that are going to kick off the season. Now, the reason with Atletico is they lost Acuna.
Are we talking about Atletico?
Yeah, sure. Let's just go.
They're in 7th?
This is so hard. Let's just go with Atletico Ottawa. So I personally love Atletico Madrid. They're my favorite team in Spain, and and it pains me to put them so low on the list, but I just don't think that they can create chances as much, because it looks good defensively. They have VT Martinez. Their backline is relatively the same, but it's not one of the strongest in the Canadian Premier League either. And that is arguably one of their strongest positions, other than the midfield.
I actually, in the Island games, I liked Kapoor a lot, except when he got a red card for
I like Kapoor too.
doing a challenge that he probably really should have not made. And Bashan Neuville gave flashes of brilliance. So he's one to watch too. But when you look at their middle of the park, they have VT Martinez, who is very good, Chris Manella, and they've added Verhoeven, Zach Verhoeven. So that's looking pretty strong there. They've actually added Ryan Telfer as well.
Yeah, but I know that Ryan Telfer is good, but I just don't think that he will provide enough in the forward
I think he's
position.
overrated.
Yeah, me too.
Reggie Larea could be an interesting player. I haven't seen him play, but I've seen his brother play a lot. So he could be interesting. I'm surprised they let Zabal go, because for me, I mean, they would have been blown out a bunch of times without Zabal.
Yeah, so
in terms of the leadership. And the same with Fisk. And I don't know how they could have let Acuna go.
I think
he was the player that made that team look good.
I know. It was like a team effort, but Acuna really was the grand jewel that made everything tick and work. But there was also like some like VT Martinez and Benjamin Fisk. And I don't get...
They also lost Malik Hamilton.
I know. Just what I don't get is that I just can't believe that they let so many of their players go. Like, they released Zabal. They didn't... Someone didn't sign him. They released him. Ben Fisk released.
Well, it could have been contract issues.
Yeah, but I just feel like they lost too much of their core to be competing for that top four. Now, the CPL is really like, it's not that far from worst to best, but I just
they had more chance to get cohesion, right? I mean, they didn't have a lot of chance to do that. But losing Fisk, particularly with his strong Spanish, and then Acuna, also with his, Spanish being his first language, it puts a lot of pressure, I think, on VT Martinez to help communicate between the coach and the rest of the team. And I think they probably should have thought, maybe we need another couple Spanish players or Spanish-speaking players. That's my thought.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah, I just feel like everything is good, not great.
All right. So you think the next one up is going to be Edmonton?
Correct, because
let's look at Edmonton.
So Edmonton, I just think that with a new coach, they came in last year, so they want to rebound back. They have a new coach who has MLS experience. I think he won an award of best coach in the year in the USL. So he's a good coach, and I think that he's going to be able to elevate them very high. The next five, I think, are just a level above what Edmonton has right now, but they have a very interesting core of Ongaro, Shamit Shom, who we did an interview with, and Amir Didic. So I think those three will be running the show. But the problem is that I think Shamit Shom will stay healthy, but I think Ongaro and Didic, I'm just a bit worried about their fitness levels and if they get injured during the season, because who is going to be that rock in defense?
Well, why would you be worried about Didic?
Because he has been injured before.
That was just last season, I think.
Yeah, but still, I'm just worried about him. Because if he does get injured, I just don't think that the defense can really cope.
I can see that.
With so many great attacking sides, like the Wanderers.
Asu was a fun player to watch.
Yeah, Asu is really good.
Kakaras showed some good signs last season. Shamit Shom should be really interesting to watch coming into the CPL from the MLS, because he has something to prove and he can really bring, I think, a lot of cohesion to that midfield. Porter, I'm not so much a fan, and Fraser Aird, I think he is really overrated. He just doesn't seem to have a lot of hustle on the field, and so that's a player I wouldn't have signed, so I think that actually makes it worse.
Okay.
And when you look at who they've lost, They lost Tariq Muhammad, Alaman,
Zetterberg.
Those are some Tomi Amiobi, who I think was getting more towards the older ages of his career. But I don't see a big upgrade here apart from Shimmy Chom. And so because of that, I think Edmonton might struggle.
Okay. So are you going with Atletico Ottawa over them? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to circle back to York United for 1 second. Another reason why I think they won't be amazing is they didn't have enough time to train. Same with Forge FC, and I just think that if maybe they had more time to train, maybe they would have been a bit higher. But I just think with the time training, the players that they lost, not enough experience, because experience could have helped in this situation. They just won't be able to.
I think they will have some excitement in the final third, though, just because they have players that have are a little bit more comfortable with the league. In Alvaro Rivera, and I'd like to see Julian Albright play.
And Nicholas Hamilton.
Lowell Wright has a little bit more experience. Yeah, so those guys could produce something, but I think they might really struggle with that link-up play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Unless they're gonna play like 5 in the back or something.
Yeah, which I wouldn't put it past.
Or 3 in the back, because they don't have those middle players, so they kind of almost have to play wing play, which
I don't think
which strikes. And like Ensa could be really good in that position if he's playing higher up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I think he has the same kind of desire as like an Alphonso Davies to kind of get forward and do some creative stuff. But it leaves, I think, the team limited because they can only play. I just don't see them playing through the middle.
Yeah, I can understand that. Okay,
right,
so next
up.
one, I think that these top 5, it could vary a bit. But in number 5, I'm actually going with Valor FC. Now they've improved a lot last year. They kept the core together, which was amazing. They got some better players like Alaman, Oloa, and like I said, they kept a lot of their players that they had before. I just don't know if they could crack that top 4. Now, I could be wrong because their team actually does look really good. And it's not so much about the players that they lost, to be honest.
They lost Julian Dunn.
Yeah, that's the only big one that stands out to me. Also, James Pantemis.
That's true.
And Pantemis.
Yeah.
Which
Pantemis
I think
is a big
could,
loss.
Those
are the 2 big losses right there.
Yeah, both in the defense.
Carrero, not so much. Air, not so much. Hundal, he didn't have much of a chance to
shine.
To shine. So, yeah, they have lost that. So, how are their keepers?
Well, Matt Silva has been with them for all. Matt Silva, was with York. When they were York 9 before. Back then. But I don't know too much about their.
They definitely seem better in the middle, and in the attacking third, I think Akio is going to give them, an interesting.
Yeah, we talked to Akio recently. Yeah, we talked to Akio recently, and
he's got something to prove.
Yeah. But what he's also told us is really exciting. But in defense, they look good as well because they have Andre Jean Baptiste, who I think will be able to kind of make up for Julian Dunn.
He's a phenomenal player. Yeah.
I'm just really not sure about the goalkeepers because I think Matt Silva, he got he was supposed to be the starting one, and then he got kind of usurped by Nathan Ingham.
And then they got Rodrigo Reyes coming in from the Mexican League.
Yeah, which should be good.
Guadalajara is a good team, so that should be good for them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of their thing. It looks like Valor always looks to other leagues to bring in their center backs and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is interesting. Okay, next up.
So for next up, I think that it could go a lot of different ways, but I'm going to go with the Halifax Wanderers for number 4. Now, I think they could go higher. I'm just not sure because I feel like the signings that they really got, like the high-profile players, were players that were supposed to like fill in slots, like Kristinovic, Ensa. Like they got Maury Donor for Kristinovic, Ensa, and they got Lapere for Abukar Sissoko. So I feel like maybe Lapere might have like a higher IQ than maybe Sissoko since he's been playing for so long.
Right.
But I just don't know if, like, since all the other teams look like they've gotten considerably better and Halifax Wanderers look like the same team, like they'll probably still be good and they'll probably still get into the top 4. I'm just wondering if
not necessarily. I mean, they now have Shali and they got in Eric Santos.
I know.
And Gems. So they've got a really strong 3 center backs there.
Yeah.
That are good. And Restrepo is very exciting. I'd like to see what he can do over the full season.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're not going to be good. I'm just saying that with all the other teams that have gotten better, I'm just not sure since, like, I think the Wanderers have gone better, but I think some, like, in the offseason, some teams have made bigger signings.
Right.
And maybe Stephen Hart just doesn't want that. He wants, like, the continuity, like, the same core of players, which he did get. I just don't see a lot of more experienced players. But I'm excited to see Polisi, Lamoth.
Right.
I'm excited to see this Wanderers team.
And some of these Wanderers,
Santos.
like Morelli, you know, he sometimes plays in the midfield more. And Bent can play as a forward or as a winger. So there is kind of some flow between midfield, like players that are listed as midfield and players that are listed as forwards. But just looking at this list here, the midfield seems pretty light. A lot of responsibility is going to be on Rampersad and Lapere.
Yeah, Lapere.
Lapere.
Yeah, so looking at the players that they lost, I know some people have been like a bit surprised that they let Goyette go, but I just don't see the big need in that because
he didn't seem happy for some reason.
Yeah, Goyette didn't play a lot, but also they played fine without him. They didn't he wasn't one of their star players in any means.
Yeah, Ensa's a big loss and Sissoko's a big loss. Those are 2 big losses. However, it'll be nice to see Marshall playing healthy and Morelli playing.
Yeah, the one thing
because he missed a couple of games because of that red card.
But I think one thing that I could be wrong on is that Alex Marshall and Alexander Riggi were both recovering from injuries. So if they're more at full health, I could be very surprised.
Next up.
Okay, so next up is actually going to be the champions. I do not have Forge FC getting the 3-peat. Now that may come as a surprise, but I just don't think that they're going to get the 3-peat. Because let me tell you, first of all, they have been training about I think they got the bit before York United, but just by a couple days, I think. So I don't think that they're going to have great continuity. They have basically the same squad, so it may not matter that much, but it may not have gone, I'm gelling may not have gone better. And the second reason why they may be in third is because of the CONCACAF. And the CONCACAF will always be there, and Bobby Smirniadis will have to decide whether to rest his star players for the CONCACAF or for the actual league.
Right.
So I feel like he might do it for CONCACAF because it's one of I think it's
it's obviously going to be one of his goals.
Yeah,
to do well in the CONCACAF.
Yeah, so I think that if they're playing not maybe some of their weaker players, it might be harder for them just to win, and also with less rest with the CONCACAF. But those are the 2 reasons. But other than that, it looks really good. They got Borges back, which is amazing for them. They got Sabak, who I think was supposed to be more of a replacement for Borges, but I think he's kind of gone to camp, I bet. Right. I think. But it does look good. They have Tissot,
Becker
Agua.
is great.
Becker.
And Shadi Johnson is fantastic too.
But they did lose Anthony Novak, who I really liked, but I also liked Cadell Thomas, who they also
Yeah.
lost.
I really like Mo Babuli. I think he's got some things to prove in this league.
I like him too.
But yeah, Novak gives him that kind of aggressive player in the box.
And target man.
Yeah, and target man. And I don't think they have, I don't know Robbie Clearly or some of these other guys, but I'm not sure they have that real replacement for that.
Yeah, but something that they did get a replacement for was David Edgar retiring, and they got, I think Dejan Jakovic is actually even older than him, but he is an amazing Canadian player who's a center back, and I feel like that is actually the perfect replacement for David Edgar.
You know, national team experience, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So I think we're done with.
So who do you got next?
So for next, I have Pacific FC. So I really like Pa. I always love it when I see them play because I think they're very exciting to watch. But also, since I'm here in Nova Scotia, it's a big rivalry, the coastal clash. So I always have a bit of mixed feelings when I see them play. But yeah, they're really exciting to watch because they have really good players in defense. With Mary Giguère, they have Dada Luke. I feel like they have Kane Chung, but I feel like on defense they might be a little light. Yeah, I just feel like they might be a little light on defense because of Duran Lee.
Right.
But just because of his injury. But in the midfield, they also look good. It seems pretty much the same, except for the additions of Polisi, as well as Manuel Aparicio, who is a big, it's a big score for Pacific FC because it's gonna help because Manny Aparicio, he's gonna have so many quality attacking players to give it to. He can give it to Campbell, he can give it to Bustos Diaz, Oli Bassett, Dos Santos. But what's really exciting about the forwards, which I'm really excited about, is because they have the returning players of Bustos and Diaz, but they brought more quality players like Oli Bassett and Dos Santos, who were I think really smart picks in the market.
Right, those are really good, and that's gonna give them the
attacking edge.
Yeah, a lot of attacking ability and the ability to really let someone like Bustos kind of move around and kind of just free roam and just get into places where he wants to get into. And of course, that's going to be easier with Aparicio in the midfield as well, to give him that license.
Yeah, but another thing is Marco Bustos will definitely be hungry to get Player of the Year. Yeah. So I'm excited to see him, and I just if he can be consistent, if he can be consistent with the level that we saw him play for the whole season, it'll be really good. Now the biggest questions for them is, basically the biggest, because I think Zachary Verhoeven and Noah Verhoeven, they're both quality players, but I think they have replacement for those. I'm not sure about Marcel De Jong, because I think it was supposed to be Duran Lee. Right. Then Duran Lee got injured, and maybe it's Dada Luke now, but I'm just not sure, or maybe Christopher Lee. I'm just not sure about who exactly is going to take up that role, as well as the leadership role.
I don't know. They seem pretty strong. They seem like they've definitely improved their team. When you just look at this, you think improved.
Yeah, definitely improved.
So they should be going for
top spot.
Yeah, they should be aiming for one of those top 3 spots.
Yeah, and goalie looks very good too with Callum Irving back between the posts. So yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be exciting. And then in number 1,
the winner
is going to be Cavalry FC. So Cavalry FC, I think, are an amazing team because they kept a core, but they also got players, new players like Pacific FC. But they have Marco Carducci back between the posts, which will be invaluable for them. Then there's Dan Klomp, who came from the Netherlands, who I'm very excited to see. Then there's Tom Fiedel from Dundee. And then they still have Trafford, they have Farsi.
Right.
I feel like they are a little bit light on the defensive side.
I think David Norman plays defender, doesn't he?
Maybe. Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah. I think he's played defender before.
But yeah, they are a little bit light just on that list there.
Because they lost Nathan Mavilla, Dean Northover, Wielden,
Zebi.
Yeah,
Boscovich. These are all defenders that they lost. So I think he's planning to. Some of these players will obviously.
Yeah, I think
he'll be filling in, at least deputizing time to time on that.
Yeah, but I think he'll most likely be trying to play like
he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, 3 at the back, and maybe with like some kind of like wing backs, but maybe slightly more attacking. To put because you have to fit in Farsi in that team. But what I'm so excited to see is the midfield. They have Pasquati. They have
Adekube, Simmons, Ledgerwood.
Yeah,
oh man, this is big.
They have Dichiara.
Camargo,
yeah,
who was injured for the whole thing.
Yeah, and
then Dichiara, yeah.
Because
that's gonna be tough picking the lineup.
Yeah, because
Tommy, you gave yourself a hard time with that one.
Yeah, because Cavalry, they came in third last year in the Island Games. I'm pretty sure they came in third, and so they came in third, but third or fourth, but they had so many injuries that really hit them hard, like Camargo. But with these players now coming back, like Simmons, which will be a great addition, with Camargo and Adekube and Ledgerwood, and like Joseph Dichiara, that's an exciting midfield to choose from. And like you just said,
and a tough one.
Yeah,
and a tough one too. Like if you were another team and you were lining up, and they had Simmons, Adekube, Dichiara, Escalante in the lineup, you're gonna get smacked around a bit.
Yeah,
that's not a team where you'd be like, oh, okay, great. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say, right?
It's gonna be hard to get past the midfield.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe they'll play with a big overload in the midfield, with 5 maybe.
Yeah.
So they can fit. That. Yeah, so they can fit so many players in, because like I said, they have Simmons, but they also have
and then they got some good options going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Novak was a good pickup.
Yeah.
Obviously they lost Haber, which who I thought was great.
Yeah, but they have Hernandez. They have Joe Mason, who I'm really excited for. He played for Wolves, my team, so that's another bonus points for me. But he's something that I heard him say was that one of his biggest advantages is his touch and he's very clinical inside and around the box, that type of area. So I'm very excited to see Joe Mason in that lineup. But they also have Jose Hernandez, Richard Luca. But I'm very excited to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you look at some of the delivery they can get from the midfield, people like Simmons, Adekube, Dichiara, and Camargo, and getting up to Joe Mason in the box, quick touch and then shoot. It could be very, very attacking minded.
Yeah, I think that maybe Cavalry are the most well-rounded team. Maybe in defense they're a bit light, but I think that because Tom's played there at the back before, so I think they'll be all right.
I haven't seen Yao play, but he's coming from the MLS. And then Klomp, I haven't seen him play, but he's coming from Netherlands. And then
Tom Field.
Tom Field is coming from Dundee. So the people that they've got there,
I believe that they're both center backs.
Are coming from good leagues. So they should be able to step in and do really well, like people like Julian Dunn and Andrew Jean Baptiste have done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but looking at this, there's no real standout other than some of the defenders. But yeah, I'm excited to see this Cavalry team in action because they look really good. But just the whole league back in action, it's gonna be so good to see them.
It is.
Back. Yeah.
All right. So let us know in the comments if you think we're right or we're wrong.
Yeah, but just before we end it, would you agree that Cavalry could win this?
Yeah, I think Cavalry looks really exciting. Pacific looks exciting going forward.
But it's so hard to count out.
Forge has a couple interesting players, and I also really like the Wanderers, who they have, because they have a lot of different ways they can line up, and some very, very exciting players. I'd love to see JackMurray play for the whole season, and see what he can do. You know, once he gets more comfortable, you know, with Garcia and Alex Marshall, like,
and they were
when
already
you think of the link-ups,
and they were already linking up extremely good back in the Island Games, and there wasn't that much preparation in that. So I'm very excited to see these teams, but it's so hard to
wait.
To wait, but also to rank them because they're so good. And I was thinking, how did I leave Valor out of the top 4? Because they do look extremely good, but the top 4 just are maybe a bit better. But what's something that the Wanderers and Cavalry have in common is that the Cavalry are very versatile in the midfield. There's so many ways that they can line up in there, but the Wanderers have it in attack, which is really interesting.
And I think that that's important, that versatility, because the CPL carries typically a little bit smaller rosters than a lot of professional leagues, by a few players. So having those versatile players, I think, is really important. All right, can't wait for the season.
Yeah, and we'll see you on the next video.
We'll see you on the kickoff.